Primarily just to raise interest like everyone else here. That's the most important thing, is to raise the interest about politics and young people.
The stall is here to encourage anyone who's interested in the Liberal Democrats to come and talk to us. We don't have a minimum age for the party. Anyone who wants to join can join.
We're basically here to tell the students here about Labour students and our campaigns and what we stand for, and obviously to find out whether any of them are interested in getting involved.
The reason we're here at Westminster today is to promote the local democracy campaign for 2005. What we're trying to do is trying to reach hard to reach young people this year. So we're working with other organisations such as The Big Issue and the Electoral Commission, UK Youth Parliament and the National Youth Association.
We have come along to Westminster Day today to try and attract Jewish students who may be at the day-to-day, to inform them of what we have and the kind of things we can provide for them at university, and also just to provide people who may be interested with information on Israel, Jewish events, and on anti-racism work and things that will be useful for minority communities.
The outreach programme at the Electoral Commission works with 16 to 24-year-old young people to become more aware of the political process. We've got the Electoral Commission Snakes and Ladders, where they're politicians, they have to answer questions, do forfeits, so introduce politics in a way that is kind of non-threatening.
The Electoral Commission is letting young people know how politics affects their lives. The materials we have here today include a voter registration pack for teachers to take back to their schools.
We've also got lots of reports. We're launching our Do Politics website,
www.dopolitics.org.uk, which has information for young people, youth workers and teachers about politics and democracy in the UK.
I think they are when it comes to issues that matter to them, but it's quite hard for them to know exactly how to have their opinions heard and how to express them in formats which will have them heard, and that's very important for political parties to help in.
Maybe it's issues they're interested in rather than particular parties, and we're here to help them find out more about the party and how they relate to the issues they're interested in.
It's a great myth that students aren't interested in politics. They're possibly more cynical about political processes than they once were.
Certainly from the work that we do, we try and engage Jewish students in politics, and we do find that they get interested in the work that we do, anti-racism work specifically. Is there a general interest in politics? I'm not sure there is.
Not necessarily politics, but they are interested in what's happening in their community. And if you can get them involved and interested in what's happening locally on their own doorstep, you find that politics comes naturally.
The Hansard Society is here today to actually launch the Why Vote mock elections, which the Electoral Commission is kindly supporting along with the Department for Education and Sport. Why Vote mock elections is actually an interactive website for teachers and for students. Teachers actually are able to download resources which enable them to actually conduct an election in their school, because it's not just about voting or being a candidate, it's actually being press officers, spin doctors, spies, that sort of thing.
We have to realise that only 1 in 4 young people voted in the last elections, and that's a terrible record because it means that young people are not being represented at the political level. Their views, their influences is not coming through. So we really have to make politics accessible, interesting and relevant, and that's the most important message.
Well, it's an audience we don't normally have. It's not that easy to actually capture the attention of so many people of this age range most of the time.
This is obviously an excellent event in order to do that, because it gives young people direct links to politicians, and also the vitality that you get of 1,500 young people all coming together and demanding answers.
Everything affects us just as much as anyone else. You might think pensions doesn't affect us, but in the end, we're going to be relying on them. You might think, taxes don't matter, but it's going to affect us.
I do think that a lot of what was talked about today is pretty relevant to younger people.
I think the difficulty we have is making young people aware that they're relevant to them. And it's important to make them understand how politics touches their lives.
Everything is an issue for everyone, really.
I think it's brilliant that we're having an event like this, but this should be young people led. With the Youth Parliament, which is around the country at the moment. Where are they? Why are they not on the stage promoting what they're doing?
Well, thank you for inviting me this morning, and thank you for that for that mixed welcome. There are many things that are wrong with the British political system, but one thing that it is good at is actually getting rid of a government. I saw this, I worked for John Major in 1997, and I'll never forget the day after the election, literally that day the removal van arrives in Downing Street, you put in the furniture and you're out.
You all well? I want to start with talking to you about some real people, because politics is about theories, it's about elections, it's about changing the world, but it's also about real people like you.
Education is something I focus on, but not just education in schools, but education about the world, third world countries, how life's different there.
To be honest, I think it'd be better to handle more sort of international problems, as they're a lot bigger than the ones we're dealing with in this country.
I think global warming, because I think it's not just a thing, it's a long-lasting effect, in other words, and it's a thing which should affect everyone in the world.
I think the biggest issue is the pollution in the Antarctica.
Try and get fair trade running.
Well, try and make the world a better place.
The British public managed to raise a lot of money for the tsunami crisis. However, that many people die in Africa a week, and not enough's been done about it by the government.
Put more money into the animal rights and the human rights.
Try to contact everybody and get everybody's views in.
If I were to vote now, I probably wouldn't make the right decision. I'd just base it on something that I didn't really know very much about.
I think 16 may be a little bit too young.
A lot of 16-year-olds would just vote for silly reasons like, I like what he said, rather than knowing more about it.
I do deeply disagree with Michael Meacher on the subject of nuclear power. Something under 25% of our energy, our electricity, is produced by a system which does not create global warming, and that is nuclear power. So I think it depends on whether you believe in it or not. Do you believe that climate change is the catastrophic challenge to the world? And if you do that, then you have to accept that nuclear power is the intermediate step you have to take. And I believe that the president of the Friends of the Earth, who got sacked for saying of it, was right to say that that is what has to be done.
I too come from quite a libertarian standpoint, which is why I agree with you on many things such as ID cards. But what I also believe in is trusting our police force. And the way you've spoken today, it sounds to me as though you don't trust the police force.
My name's Rian Benson, and I was wondering, why do you think that it's more important to spend money on 5-year-olds that at the end of the day are going to spend it on Play-Doh and paint and food and apples and milk, when instead it should be given to the individual of the 18-year-old rather than a 5-year-old who's just going to waste it?
My friend, when you were 5, I reckon you played with Play-Doh and plasticine and water and so on. In fact, you may be still playing with them for all I know. Who knows? I'll tell you this. All the evidence is that the most formative periods of people's lives are when they're 0 to 7. All the evidence is that really good pre-school education, really good opportunities for good play, really good nursery schools are actually more useful to make kids sociable, well-adapted, well-adjusted, well-educated, have a good start. And when you're 18, if you don't have tuition and top-up fees, you won't have to worry about money nearly as much, and you will have been a much, much more well-rounded youngster because of the lovely, lovely time you had before you were 7. So I hope I can persuade you.
They've actually wanted to listen to us and actually get our feelings down and answer the questions that we feel are important, rather than just going through their political agenda.
It was good to see the people taking on the MPs and speakers.
And it was good to be informed, so I know who to vote for and I know more about the party's ideas.
Make it seem more interesting, because obviously it should be interesting because it's what's going on.
Have you all enjoyed Westminster Day?
Very much, yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
That's great.